Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we're diving into a proxy statement from Ocular Therapeutix, but don't worry, it's not going to be a dry legal read. We'll find the juicy bits. This filing hints at some major changes, including a potentially very lucrative deal for the CEO. Stay tuned. This report outlines some big moves for Ocular Therapeutix, a company focused on eye treatments, think pipeline development, executive shakeups, and of course the always fascinating executive compensation. In short, Ocular Therapeutix wants to redefine the retina experience. Let's start with a letter to stockholders. It describes 2024 as transformative, highlighting progress on their main product, AXPAXLI, for retinal diseases. They also saw a 9% increase in total net revenue, which includes Dextanza. The letter also mentions some substantial capital which should fund the company into 2028. They also got a refreshed management team with Dr. Pravin Duggal joining as the executive chairman and ultimately becoming the president and CEO. Since they are using the notice and access rules from the SEC, most stockholders will get a notice online about how to view the proxy materials, rather than a paper copy in the mail. Okay, now onto the heart of this proxy statement. The items up for a vote. The main topics include electing directors, voting on executive pay, and approving changes to their stock incentive plan and employee stock purchase plan. Also, there's a proposal to exculpate officers. First up, there's information about the board of directors. It lists names, ages, and experience. Dr. Pravin Duggal is the executive chairman, president, and CEO. It also includes Adrienne Graves, Seun Soo Hong, Richard Lindstrom, Merilee Rains, Charles Warden, and Leslie Williams. The report then discusses the independence of the board, stating that everyone except Dr. Duggal is considered independent under NASDAQ rules. Of course, Dr. Duggal is not independent because he is the CEO. Since Dr. Duggal is the chairman and CEO, they also have a lead independent director, Charles Warden. Warden chairs meetings of the independent directors, facilitates communication, and works on the board agenda. It describes the responsibilities of the Audit Committee, Compensation Committee, and Nominating and Corporate Governance Committee. It also tells you how many times those committees met in the last year, with the Compensation Committee clocking in at 13 meetings. They also have a code of ethics and a compensation recovery clawback policy, which lets the company recover incentive pay from executives if there's an accounting restatement due to misconduct. Now, for what we've all been waiting for, let's look at the executive compensation. The named executive officers, or NEOs, for 2024 were Dr. Duggal, Jeffrey Heyer, Peter Kaiser, and Anthony Matasic. Here is the summary compensation table, which in total looks like Sitkin. 2024, Dr. Duggal received $18,574 and $2020 in total compensation. As in 2024, Anthony Matasic, who is the former CEO, received $8,523. Copper in 2024, Peter Kaiser received $6,599,173. Architafai Aya received $6,599. Huithiata Fire received $6,590 and 340 ATE IORs in 2024. Peter Kaiser received $6,629,338 in 2024. Titaisa received $6,599,173. At current 2024, Peter Kaiser received $6,629,358. Falfen 2024, Peter Kaiser received. Most of this compensation is through stock and option awards. ALDE also have annual performance bonuses. Long-term equity incentive awards are the primary vehicle for offering long-term incentive compensation to our executives. Their compensation committee will also look at individual performance, market conditions, and general salary trends to determine an executive salary. For bonuses, they look at key corporate and individual goals. The board retains the power to make adjustments to payouts both up and down. In 2024, the Compensation Committee and Board of Directors approved bonus payouts based on 110% of target to each of our NEOs in early 2025. Besides salary, bonus, and equity, the executives also receive standard benefits like health insurance, severance packages, and a 401k plan. In February 2025, Dr. Duggal got an updated compensation package, including a base salary of $81,200 and a bonus target of 75% of his base. He also got a long-term equity award tied to stock price performance. Mr. Matasic got a grant of an option to purchase 549,400 shares in February 2024. As of the end of 2024, Pravin Duggal had exercisable stock options for 267,176 shares and unexercisable options for 1,015,293 shares. Not too shabby. They have employment agreements with all the top executives, outlining their roles, salaries, and what happens if they leave the company. If Dr. Duggal's employment with us is terminated by the company without cause, is terminated in the event of his death or disability, we are obligated to accelerate the vesting of outstanding time-based equity awards held by him by 12 months. Here's a bird's eye view of securities authorized for issuance under equity compensation plans, and it tells us they have 23,287 securities to be issued upon exercise of outstanding options, warrants, and rights, and nearly 10 million available for future issuance. Last year, stockholders overwhelmingly approved executive compensation, with over 89% voting in favor. Now let's shift gears to director compensation, because in 2024, Adrian Graves received $35 and $320.21 floor. Sung Hom received $351,320 $21,000 for NAV. In 2024, Charles Warden received $420.24. Charles Warden received $420.24. Leslie Williams received $363,812 Al-Safin in 2021 dollars and $324. Shum Heng received $363,812. The members of the Audit Committee and Compensation Committee are also mentioned in here. Also importantly, the report says that all such accountant services and fees were pre-approved by their Audit Committee. Now back to the proposals to be voted. First up is electing 3 Class 2 directors. Second is an advisory vote on named executive officer compensation. The third proposal is an amendment to their 2021 stock incentive plan to increase the number of shares of common stock issuable. This is pretty routine. The fourth proposal is to approve an amendment to their employee stock purchase plan, increasing the number of shares and removing an evergreen provision. The fifth proposal is to amend their certificate of incorporation to provide for officer exculpation. This would limit the personal liability of officers. The sixth proposal is the most boring of them all, ratifying the appointment of PricewaterhouseCoopers as their accounting firm. There's also mention of transactions with related persons, detailing consulting agreements with board members and entities affiliated with them. You can see these details spelled out in this section. Finally, the report notes a few instances where some executives were late filing reports of their stock transactions. The board will determine the effect on an award of the disability, death, termination, or other cessation of employment, authorized leave of absence, or other change in the employment or other status of a participant. If you're a stockholder and want to submit a proposal for the next annual meeting, you need to get it in by December 2025. Okay, so what's the takeaway here? Ocular Therapeutix had a busy year, focusing its resources on its core retina treatment and bringing in a new CEO to lead the charge. But also with all this focus, the board wants to make sure they are taking care of the team they have by providing competitive compensation, which also puts a good chunk of it on performance. On the upside, the company seems to be making strides with its lead drug candidate and has secured enough cash to operate for the foreseeable future. However, the high executive compensation, particularly the potential payout for the CEO, could be a concern for some investors. The dependence on stock performance to justify these rewards means there's a risk if the company doesn't deliver. Overall, I'd say Ocular Therapeutix is at an interesting inflection point. The company's success hinges on the success of its lead drug candidate and the effectiveness of its new management team. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, like, and comment.